So, Summer Games Fest opened up today, and if you didn't know what Summer Games Fest was, that's Jeff Keighley, who does the Video Game Awards every year. That's his own E3 type spin, thing like that. And I have to admit, I didn't think Summer Games Fest was like amazing or anything like that. I don't think that, it's the same kind of panache, so to speak, as like an E3 would be. But there were some interesting things, and a bit of interesting information about PlayStation 5 and Sony came out during this, and I just thought that it was definitely worth talking about because it really kind of, I think, took everybody by surprise by the simple fact that we've been hearing so many quote-unquote insiders talk about some other things and kind of almost allude to Xbox getting some of the stuff that PlayStation's been getting. So I don't know, very interesting, very weird to see how this is kind of going along. But, I don't know, maybe you guys have a different take on this. Maybe you guys have different ideas on this. But either way, I feel like we should definitely talk about it and definitely kind of get those feelings out and things like that. Of course, we're going to get started. And, of course, I'm going to ask you to, as always, slap that like button. Slap it, mother. Slap it. Crack baby, slap it. Fuck me, slap it! Slap that like button. Slap it, we slap it. Slap that like button and we slap it some more. That's what we do. Now, that's out of the way, let's get this stuff started. Oh, you might want to consider subscribing, all that kind of good stuff. Always entertaining, always good stuff here. So thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you guys. So, with that being said, it's been such a weird thing to see all these games kind of announced and stuff like that. And I think a thing that kind of took surprise was Jeff Keighley was talking to, Hideo Kojima, who's his good friend or whatever. And, the thing that I actually saw that was very interesting was that nobody was expecting this announcement. Nobody was really expecting this announcement. And, again, I found it to be a very interesting situation where Death Stranding was brought to the forefront. Now, I get it, old games, whatever. I've already beaten Death Stranding, so that didn't really much appeal to me until you see that there's new content and some kind of Metal Gear inspiration. I was like, holy crap, right? And I thought this was fantastic. So Death Stranding Director's Cut announced for PlayStation 5 with new content and Metal Gear inspirations. Death Stranding Extended Edition has been announced for the PS5, and a brand new trailer for the game was just debuted at the Summer Games Fest kickoff livestream. The new trailer is made up of a brand new section of game. It's made to look like the first level of Metal Gear Solid. Even the hiding box returns. Overall, it's pretty much a cute and fun trailer. We don't know exactly what's going to be coming in terms of the upgrades for the game, but this is the interesting part. A full reveal is only a few weeks away. That was officially confirmed. That's what Sony said. That's what Kojima said. So again, Sony confirmed through this avenue that they have their own game showcase. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love hearing that. Really, announcing that a few days before Microsoft's E3 is a tremendous thing, in my opinion. I mean, really tremendous. At the end of the day, Microsoft, I thought Microsoft was going to stay super quiet leading up to E3. Like, why go out there and do anything that's going to get people not talking about, Xbox, your console or whatever. And the fact of the matter is, it looks like there's going to be like a 60 FPS with extra added content, director's cut of Death Stranding, which, to be honest with you, is probably the most interesting thing for me personally announced at Game Fest or whatever. And then you see that Xbox themselves kind of stuck their own foot in their mouth because at every turn, they make it seem like they care less and less about console. Now, not to turn this into a whole Xbox versus PlayStation thing, but, and I get it, because there's a little blurb about how they're already making their next console or whatever, which, to my response to that would be, well, yeah, they're going to need something to run, future iterations of, xCloud on, but it does just seem funny to me that their focus is everywhere but the console lately, and they still haven't released a first-party game this year. No AAA Xbox exclusive in 643 days. 644 by the time you see this, and yeah, just incredibly messy. That's the reality of things, you know what I mean? So I just find it to be very funny and very, I guess, kind of fluid the way that things are going, for Microsoft and Sony. And a lot of people go and question, well, why does Sony need to go at E3? But they really continue to prove that they don't need to attend E3. I mean, E3 is, making its return this year in sort of a way. And I've mentioned this multiple times. Yeah, it's quote-unquote E3, but it's not the E3 where there's a crowd there and we're all cheering. And it's like, so to me, everybody just doing digital events doesn't make it E3, unless there's people actually there and the crowd and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't make a hill of beans to me. So it's still missing some big components, which really made it a mainstay in the industry throughout years, and one of them being Sony, one of the biggest players in the console manufacturing and game publishing world. The creators of PlayStation themselves, they've been the must-see for every event that's ever been at E3 pretty much. They've always surprised us. Yet recent years, Sony has stepped back from E3 entirely. 2019 marked the first time they didn't make a showing in any way, shape, or form. They were among many who opted out of assisting E3 and attempting an event in 2020, and they'll be absent from this event as well. And to be sure, it's easy to believe this could be detrimental to Sony, as some Xbox fanboys claim, but most everyone interested in gaming watches or at least knows about E3, and it's regarded as one of the biggest events in gaming. This makes it a viable way to get exposure and publicly show off what you have in terms of upcoming titles and technology, and yet in the past few years have proven anything. It's that Sony doesn't need E3. In fact, it could be perfectly fine without ever appearing in another E3 ever again. The reason for this, there's a couple reasons, obviously. On one hand, Sony's well known even without E3. They're a household name among gamers, and they have been for, 20-some years, shipping an absurd amount of consoles over the decades. Obviously, number one in this console generation, number one last console generation, number two before that, number one before that, number one before that. So it doesn't look to be changing anytime soon. The company shipped an exceptionally high number of PlayStation 5 since launch in November, with its current totals could be over 10 million by now. So the PlayStation 5 continues to be a very hot commodity, and it's actually made them the front runner for the next generation of consoles, since they put such an emphasis on console. Now the company releases great successful games, and they've been successful in their own right. The Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Returnal, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. They're all hugely successful, critically, commercially, or both, without even a huge advertising blitz the way that you normally would. They've all helped further cement Sony as one of the biggest players in the industry today, helping incentivize gamers towards Sony's console for a quality experience. The second point is Sony knows how to make big of the name that it actually carries, and it realized it needs to do things themselves. It doesn't need outside party to advertise its own games and hardware. Instead, it can show them off via its own private teaser and reveal events through State of Play, sort of like what Nintendo's been doing for a while. Granted, these aren't, unifying events like E3, and sometimes not as satisfying, but, again, we're seeing a lot of really cool stuff come out, and they're really kind of announcing some stuff that really blows us all away. And I love the fact that they've been able to do that in terms of, get their games out there, sort of just as a whole. Sony, I feel like, out of all the companies, doesn't really need that whole added E3 kind of presence thing. Like, I know that we would possibly like them to be there, but at the end of the day, it's not necessarily going to make or break Sony, and it's not going to, the way that it would maybe Microsoft. Like, Microsoft needs to do something like that because, let's be real, they haven't released a first-party game this whole year, and no AAA exclusives in, almost 2 years to the day, you know what I mean? So they obviously have a lot to kind of talk about and a lot to showcase in terms of their gaming prowess, and people are looking, that's why they're being looked at the way they are. It really comes down to what they have to offer. Sony, on the other hand, I feel like people will tune in and people will watch and people will, like whatever they have just because, it's Sony. They're so well known in the industry, they really can just continue to go about and do their own thing and kind of get everything worked out the way that they've been doing it. I love the way that they've been kind of doing things, and I'm sure that in a few weeks, now that we know that that's pretty much confirmed that they're going to hold their own event, everybody's going to kind of turn their eyes and look forward to that. And what's that do to Microsoft, who has an event in a few days, right? Like, I think that's something that a lot of people would probably bring up is, like, did they just destroy Microsoft well before, a few days before Microsoft's own show. It's pretty debatable in my opinion, but yeah, very interesting nonetheless. So yeah, very much looking forward to this. Let me know what you guys think. Did you guys see the Death Stranding stuff? Are you excited? Sound off, rate, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much. Slap it. Slap that like button. Guys, I can say ridiculous things too. Xbox is the market leader. What would a person running a social media account for a game company know about if they were sold out or not? I'm sure all signs point to Final Fantasy VII Remake releasing on Xbox One about the same time as it does on PS4, or pretty soon thereafter. Not only that, but if you think about it, and I do think about it quite often, I might enjoy thousands of hours playing Crackdown 3 with friends, while God of War will be a fun 6 to 8 hours. Let me know what you think. Slap it! Crapgamer out.